Jason Townsend, he works at NASA headquarters. He has a lot of experience, 14 years experience using social media messaging and website content to tell stories, and specifically with NASA. NASA's got a huge story, as we all know, and we all love hearing it. And so he's one of the experts as far as helping to get that story out via social media. And he kind of took one for the team in August. He only got to see the partial eclipse because he was down in the bunker that they called it. I think Jason called it the bunker, making sure that the message got out to the masses and that everyone could hear that. And so somebody had to do it, and that was Jason. And so, but he's had a tremendous, I think that this stat is just amazing. You read it in his bio. He quadrupled during his term there. He helped to contribute and to expand the community of NASA followers from 12 million in 2012 to 64 million this year. I think that's just absolutely wonderful. So please welcome Jason Townsend.
Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Jason. So just want to, I guess, dive in, but give you a little bit of background about what we're doing on social media here at NASA, give you guys some ideas about some of the material that, we've taken and run with that could possibly spark ideas for you guys in your clubs and everything. Also share with you some of our successes that have gone on, and also share kind of some tips and tricks that we've learned along the way. That range from the basics to some really kind of insightful stuff. So hopefully it is something that you all can learn a little bit about. And again, feel free to shoot us questions in the Q&A box, and I'm happy to take those throughout the entire presentation here. So where do we get our foundation for social media at NASA? Well, it's actually the law, and it's the same law that's really been around since the original Space Act of 1958 that founded NASA. That's to provide for the widest practical and appropriate dissemination of information concerning our activities and the results thereof here at NASA. So it's what brought you televised moon landings, space shuttle launches, things like that. Social media is just the latest chapter in fulfilling that mandate to communicate with as many people as possible. Simply put, though, on social media, we really want to share as much about NASA with as many people as possible, and really get the word out about what's going on. But at the end of the day, why wouldn't we want to share? I mean, this is space. It's awesome. And so, that's the reality of what we've got here. At the moment, we've got 527 official social media accounts spread across approximately 18 platforms. They range from, professional accounts with astronauts and things like that. You can follow mission accounts for specific missions and so on. Different organizations that do things like science on the space station and everything. Topical, looking at things like NASA Sun or NASA Moon and different pieces of the solar system out there. And that's definitely something going on. Also, you can follow our different centers. There's 10 of them from coast to coast out there here in America. And so you can follow what's going on in your own neck of the woods and with the amazing hive minds that we have that are working throughout NASA to do incredible things every day. And then if you just want to kind of get a good glimpse of, kind of the big picture of what, is the news of the day and what's going on out there across the agency, speckled with some amazing imagery from space and everything, you can follow along with, the agency's account of NASA. So moving on, who are we trying to reach? So just a little bit about it. So our footprint continues to grow. We just crossed across all of our accounts 130 million followers out there. We have the most followers in the federal government on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Google+. We've had tremendous growth over the years here on some of our big flagship accounts and everything. So the main NASA Facebook page, main NASA Twitter account, the @NASA Instagram account, and so on are here. We are among the top 100 accounts on both Instagram and Twitter at this point, and we're top 500 Facebook pages right now for NASA out there. So the reality, though, is that a lot of our followers, though, these days are seeing things on mobile devices. And so We're seeing that about 61% of our audience is viewing things on a mobile device. We have about 56% of folks viewing things on a computer. The overlap between the two means that the same person is logged into the same account viewing it on both devices, so it doesn't total up to 100%. But the takeaway from all of this is that 44% of our folks are never seeing our social media content on a big screen. So, if you're thinking about putting a message out or putting something on social media, you have to think about how is this going to look on a 3-inch screen. And so that's the reality of what we deal with. So putting lots of text and things like that and so on can cause eye fatigue, and people have to pinch and zoom and rotate and all that in order to get it all. So, how do we break it down in a way that people can consume information and optimize it for their habits? Going beyond that, though, we also have a very global audience. So across all of NASA's social media accounts, 41% of our audience is located in the United States. Of that, we get time zones that people are located in. That's about as granular as we usually get information here. Granular things out there. So, and don't look at any of that data that's available through, ad platforms and stuff like that, because NASA doesn't pay for any advertising of our social media stuff. So, but we found that 52% of our audience these days is located in the Pacific time zone. And 26% of our audience on social media is not using a social media tool in English. So 1 out of every 4 folks who follow us on social media are following us in a language other than English out there. So they could be using it in Spanish is a very popular one for us. French is another one. Chinese is another one. Russian and other languages out there definitely ranked up there. Portuguese and everything is another big one, as are a variety of languages from India. So why, though, are we doing all this? We're really looking to move a lot of folks from being kind of that armchair observer of what's going on with NASA and space. So they're not just fans, followers, and consumers, but we're trying to engage with everybody in order to have ambassadors, creators, and collaborators. So really something exciting. Just diving into some tips here, though, for what we've learned. So you've got something to post. So now what? When you get ready to go and push the publish and post button or send out an update out there, think about what you're getting ready to put out there. Do your audience right, deliver the best value you can, maximize your engagement, and really, meet a couple of different qualifications for things. In a nutshell, though, what this really means is that we try not to write for scientists or PhDs. They provide us with incredible insights and discoveries all the time, but they also communicate really well and effectively with their peer group and so on. But if you're trying to talk to a wide cross-section of the public out there, we have to ask ourselves, would a 6th grader understand our post? Would a 70-year-old, would everybody in between? Have we defined things? Are we using an acronym? We try not to do that. We try not to use NASA buzzwords and stuff. One of the very big pieces of feedback we got right away as soon as we joined social media, we were saying that, this EVA, this extravehicular activity was happening, and everyone is like, wait, isn't that just a spacewalk? So we have to use terms that are relatable, avoiding the jargon that we, have a lot of here at NASA and everything. We also look at a lot of hashtags that people are using and joining larger conversations that are going on. We try to be very selective about that because sometimes hashtags can be very distracting. People will, end up not reading it as an actual word in a social media post. They'll read it as something else, a command to go get more information or to find other posts on a related topic and so on. So, we try to use them very sparingly and in a way that naturally would allow them to be used out there. We also try to talk in a voice that, is really approachable. We did this. It's coming from a NASA account, so we don't need to say, NASA announced something. We discovered a new star or those sorts of things out there. We really try to make the most of our post text that's going on out there and really try to find that, the things that get the best engagement, most interactions, and things that tend to go more viral and so on tend to be educational and entertaining. Right now, we just posted here last week, one of our astronauts on the space station, a video of him playing with a fidget spinner in space, which is kind of an interesting thing. It's gotten, last time I checked, about 1.9 million views on YouTube, which is fascinating. But the thing that is really interesting about it is that, in the space environment, the physics changed slightly. there's less friction, so it's not going to slow down. It's going to continue to spin longer and longer. And so how can you make that interesting and bring that kind of educational element into something that is also fun and entertaining? And so we try to find content that's interesting and really share it with as many people as we can. We try to make sure that the content works for somebody besides just an internal stakeholder. It's going to work for a member of the public. We try to make sure that, if this is something that would come across in your social media timeline, are you going to pause and read it? Maybe reshare it. Does it add any sort of value to the reader out there? We also really try to connect with our audience and look at all the different ways of the language we're using. Is it vague? Is it something that's too specific? Is it too technical? Is it something that we need to break down into a couple of different posts out there? Again, going back to avoiding acronyms, abbreviations, jargon, things like that. But, we also really try to assume that a lot of our readers don't necessarily know our internal structures and our organizations as a whole. If somebody is just reading our post out there that doesn't have the background, we really try to make sure that we explain what we're talking about. It's not just that our Space Launch System, or SLS, is doing something. It's SLS, our new and powerful rocket, is doing something. So that way it's explanatory in a way that allows the broadest number of people to understand what we're talking about. We also try to make sure that what we're doing stands alone. Lots of times our social media posts look amazing in a feed that have a lot of different, posts that are on a similar topic in a row, but that's not how most folks consume social media. They look at it in their news feed. So they're going to see it post by post, one at a time. And so looking at a series of posts is really kind of challenging. Is it something that's self-explanatory? Does it stand alone? Is it something that someone can walk away with having learned something? Is it something that is actionable for those who want to dive deeper into it? Does it have a link for more information? Really some great, things to think about when you're constructing a lot of your posts out there. But we also want to make sure that we avoid common mistakes. In our case, we're broadcasting out every day to millions of people. We try to make sure that we are writing with proper grammar, that we've made sure we spell check what we do. Does the link work? Does it go to where we thought it was going to go? Is the link the appropriate thing for our message? If we tell people that, you can learn more at nasa.gov about a certain topic, is that the thing that's front and center right there when we get ready to send people to the website and everything? So we try to find ways that we can avoid some of these common pitfalls that have a lot of issues on social media that only lead to follow-up questions that now we have to go back and respond to, and so on. So we also really try to look at it this way. Is there anything that can be added or removed to make our social media messages stronger for our audience? And so, we really try to take that keen second set of eyes and really look at, how things are going. So following up here on Keith's note here to everybody, why are we gearing them for 6th graders or 70-year-olds? It really is just, we're trying to make sure that we're reaching the widest possible audience that we can. And it's a figure of speech, in that, we try to look at, are people who are using social media, able to get, to reach our, read our material, and really make sure that we are understandable and relatable and something that they can really get into. So following up on that, it's not specific to a 70-year-old, it's not specific to a 6th grader. It's kind of, are we reaching everyone from the youngest who can be on social media on their own to, some of our, folks who have had great experiences in life. So really making sure that what we do really works for everybody. So moving on, looking at, how do we really kind of make this work? So we try to make conversations happen. We can take something that's kind of a little bit, boring at times, a rollout of a new budget, for example. We end up giving, we give the budget each year when it gets rolled out. What are we going to do with it? We try to make the numbers come alive and bring them off the page. So, we ended up inviting some of our social media followers in for behind the scenes tours at NASA. We had them talk with leaders who gave remarks internally and externally about some of the progress we've made since the last year when the budget came out. Where do we stand on things? We try to show and showcase the state of NASA and what it all means for, this budget number. a number with a lot of zeros behind it, but what does it actually translate into? And so, we try to show rather than just tell, and really make that kind of conversation happen around it. So it's not just a release of a budget, it's also an update on what's been going on at NASA recently and where are we at with what this budget enables us to do. We also try to work with folks who are influencers online. We try to find and locate those who have audiences and voices that are different from NASA. And so, we had during the year in space, we had Commander Scott Kelly on the space station take questions from some large YouTubers out there who the YouTube creators ended up asking questions of things and asking for demonstrations of how physics might be different or how daily life works differently living and working on the International Space Station. And so we were able to get video replies back. They were able to cut them into their own video products and put them up on their own channels. And so we're reaching audiences that are not just the traditional NASA audience. So that really sometimes can be important out there. We also try to make sure that we're thematically looking at content. Are we able to share a lot of things that, build upon one another? So it's not just the fact that we took another picture of a hurricane here. It's that we're taking all of these pictures of hurricanes using our satellites and everything so that we can monitor and study. Are they growing in intensity? Are the weather patterns changing? Can we, better look at, eye walls and get insights on that, or where the, densest rain is, or where the strongest thunderstorms are? So that way we can help give better, data out there to help protect human life and stuff like that. And so it's all about the ways that we can take something that is, one by one and build it into something bigger out there and tell a story that way. But we also look for moments that we can really engage in pop culture. Those seem to be moments that, the public's already tuned in for things and really is able to, participate in conversations that are kind of NASA and space adjacent. So, for example, Gravity, when it was up for all of the awards at the Oscar ceremony in 2014, we put out pictures that we called the real Gravity. It was images from real life in space as a, nice counterpoint to the movie and what it was presented as. And so it was a great night for us to join the conversation and really show off, real images from space and what was really happening out there. We did the same thing with the reboot of Cosmos that Fox did a few years ago, and made sure that, we were explaining some of the things that we're seeing on Cosmos and so on. So live tweeting the shows right along with people who are watching it. So, it was a great way for us to find things where people were going to be talking about topics that we had something to say about. So we also look at new platforms. And so, for example, this one is SoundCloud, which is an interesting one for us. We were able to put out, the sounds of things like, the atmosphere around Earth. It has a radio wave sound around it. We look at what's going on with, radio emissions coming off of Saturn from the Cassini spacecraft. Back when it was around Saturn, it was detecting things. And so we were putting that out in a way that isn't just pretty pictures. We looked at, is this a different way to look at data and take it and bring it to new audiences? And so the interesting thing about this is all of a sudden we had DJs and remixers and things like that who are coming and taking sounds from space and putting them into songs and, in places that were kind of unexpected and not our traditional space audiences. So a great way to expand and find other audiences out there. We also look at telling stories in different ways in that, we have Snapchat and Instagram stories. They're not polished. They're not beautiful little videos like we put out on a lot of our other social media channels, but it's a chance for us to be highly mobile and take a phone and go behind the scenes and jump into a mission control room or, see a rocket launch or, have a scientist talk about why are planets round and, all sorts of things like that, and give updates on different, missions that are happening, or talk to astronauts who just landed, coming back from 6 months in space and everything, and bring it to an audience that's a little bit different than some of our other audiences out there. And because of the highly mobile platform and capability that it offers us, it really allows us to, followers along and embed them into what's actually happening around the agency. We also try to make really smart partnerships, everything from working with like Kerbal Space Program on building out mission profiles that people can play that are based on real missions to, bringing the laws of physics from space into everyone's pocket with games like Angry Birds Space, where, they were able to work out, how slingshotting birds at planets, with different gravity, pulls and things like that, affect the way that the bird, interacts with all the pigs that they're trying to smash and stuff in order to teach some of the basic concepts around that. So, we try to make really smart partnerships with things that are going to be bigger than just NASA out there to bring NASA into that conversation. We also really try to seek to be in that moment, really bring forth and be a part of the larger conversation happening around, moments like the Martian. And so we really showed off, what we're trying to do to send humans to Mars and what it would actually take to get there, how we're making some of this a reality. And so with the Martian movie, it was definitely something that we ended up diving into and really sharing a lot of our stories alongside the stories and questions that the movie brings up out there. But we also play in pop culture. Sharknado 3. Sharknado every year is one of the largest events on social media as far as engagement goes. It's on, once a year. And so in the third edition of Sharknado, they had a shark storm that, went to space and back. And you had David Hasselhoff, flying the space shuttle. And it was completely outrageous, not based on anything, realistic here. But that's kind of the fun point of it. But at the same time, it gave us a great audience to sit down and talk about, how we monitor and track storms across the globe with, hurricanes and things like that. How we can watch, whale migration patterns using satellite data from space. Not quite sharks, but still, big fishies in the sea out there and so on. And so we had a lot of people who ended up saying that they started following NASA just because of what we were doing during Sharknado 3. One Direction came and filmed a music video where they tested out what it's like to train like an astronaut. And so all of a sudden, we ended up leveraging that moment to really help inspire a whole generation of girls who are absolute huge One Direction fans and, wait with bated breath for every word that any of the band members is ever going to say. So engaging with them and their followers on social media around this is really kind of crucial. And a lot of people kind of groaned and were like, why are you talking about One Direction today? Well, we also gained that day almost 70,000 new followers on Twitter. And, when we look back at who those followers were, it was a significant number of folks who had, pink and purple hearts in their, as their icons on social media and things like that. And so it was kind of heartwarming to see that, it was more than likely a lot of teenage girls and things like that, which is a great demographic for us to reach to and get interested in STEM topics so that hopefully they pursue STEM careers, because that's not only NASA's future work pipeline and employee pipeline out there, but that's also good for our country overall to have people who are scientifically, technologically, engineering and mathematically inclined out there. So, it's really something that continues to pay dividends. Moving on, we try to be relevant, on the Park Service's birthday every year. We try to put pictures of the national parks up from space to talk to all of the fans who love national parks out there, what they look like from space so that NASA can be a part of that. Or it's Mother's Day, send your mom an interstellar rose, courtesy of NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope out there. When Nelson Mandela died, for example, we put out an image of South Africa from space, or Leonard Nimoy got, a salute over Cape Cod, which is his, birthplace. He got to live long and prosper from an astronaut on the space station. So really try to be really relevant in the moment, find trending topics that we can add something relevant to, and pull out evergreen content that comes from our archives and be a part of that larger conversation. But it's not all fun and games and entertaining and educational sort of moments. We also sometimes have bad days. And so we really try to share that. And, when we have something go wrong, we try to be, the authoritative voice on what we know and try to combat against rumors and what's been going on out there. So even in our, weakest of moments, we really do try to provide as much information as we possibly can in as close to real time as we can possibly get our hands on it. And really put it out there. And so, our messages really are able to, help share what the information is from NASA that we know, and really put that out there when we have those dark days. But we also use that same power to share our really good days. And so when we flew by New Horizons, flew by Pluto here for the Pluto flyby back in 2014, I believe. I'm blanking off the top of my head at the moment. But anyway, when it flew by Pluto here a few years ago, we really were showcasing and sharing the last best images before the flyby. We really, put that across and flashed it on every platform. We ended up talking about a lot of the topics, what we knew about Pluto, what we didn't know, what we hoped to learn about Pluto, and what data we were collecting with New Horizons. And really, that's the gift that keeps on giving. We're still putting out new findings from that data set that was collected during that day. And so we were able to get Pluto trending out there on all sorts of platforms, everything from Twitter to, Facebook and things like that, on a variety of topics. And some of them are really interesting, so it was fascinating to see kind of the cultural moment that these things have. We saw very similar sorts of results during the eclipse this year, and during the final bow of Cassini here at Saturn and so on. But at the end of the day, we are a people-powered organization. We have a lot of expertise here, and so we really try to put our experts up to share as much knowledge as we can. We answer questions. We run Reddit AMAs where you can jump onto Reddit if you're a Redditor and ask questions of our experts. On Pluto Flyby Day, we had thousands of questions coming in, and we answered, hundreds of them out there across Reddit AMAs, across doing Facebook Q&As and answering things out there, and doing tweet chats and so on, and trying to reach people in different audiences on different platforms. And yes, thank you for the pro tip here. I'm using an acronym. AMA does stand for Ask Me Anything, which is a great open forum to ask questions. But we also try to answer, we answered from space. Scott Kelly, when he was spending his year in space, ended up asking or answering questions on Twitter and everything from all sorts of people on Twitter for Saturday afternoon. It was really kind of great. It was our first tweet chat from space. And the president at the time ended up putting a question out there. Do you ever look out the window and just freak out? And it's kind of one of those fun moments. And, the reply back, I didn't freak out about anything, Mr. President, except getting a Twitter question from you. So it's kind of a hilarious kind of look at, the humanity side of it all, and really kind of showcasing that in a different way. So, even though we have beautiful space pictures, there are whole teams of people behind them. And so if we can showcase our expertise and our people, we can really show off what the ability and capabilities of NASA really are. We also give opportunities for folks to come and join us, go behind the scenes. Our NASA social program really tries to build a compelling in-person experience for our social media followers and invite them in. We've done over 160 of these events since 2008, where you can learn and interact with speakers who are, kind of mid-level and junior folks, get a lot of, access to things that normally are behind the fence and closed off to the public, and really kind of create those connections between what's happening virtually online on our social media accounts and what's happening in real life, and kind of have that be a memorable and dynamic experience, and really help try to shape folks into being brand ambassadors for us. And so event participants go back home and do incredible things where, before they were just kind of casual followers of what we were doing. But again, we're trying to make folks into more active and engaged participants with NASA out there. And so with that, we really tried to jump into the deep end and, give them all access experience in the hopes that they take it and do creative things with it. And we've seen all sorts of video products, imagery come out of it, and really, they go back and they talk to school groups and Boys and Girl Scout clubs and astronomy clubs and libraries and community and civic associations. And, they write articles about cool science concepts and so on for local newspapers and local bloggers and things like that. So it's a really powerful way to transform someone's experience from being just a follower into something much, much more and much deeper. Things to think about here on social media. It's easy to become a trending topic or to hop on a trending topic, but how do you make sure that what you're doing isn't just one and done? That's why we have so many social media accounts. So it's not just, oh, here's a pretty image of a nebula from Hubble. It's let's talk about what Hubble's doing. You can follow Hubble and get just all the cool Hubble stuff that's going on. So it's a deeper conversation than just one pretty picture out there. We do find that images and video really do last longer than text. We try to really be strategic and look at, how does this help communicate what NASA is doing? What are our messages that we want to get out there? And what does this really contribute to the overall conversation? One of the things, though, that struggles, and this is something that's very apropos, I think, to a lot of astronomy clubs because you're geographically based, a lot of our social media followers are not local and can't get to things. So we look for ways that we can bring a virtual component to what's been going on. And really, stream things out there and present information in a way that works for our social media audience separately and differently from what's, the in-person audience that can get there, but yet still presenting all of the same sorts of things. How do we portray an exhibit? How do we portray a presentation online? We try not to cause that fear of missing out sort of moment. We don't want to have any FOMO going on. So, for visuals, we really do try to post it in high resolution on our website. We try to always point back to where you can get a large copy of things. Inevitably, if we fail at this, the number one question we get asked back immediately is, where can I get a high res of this? I want to make it my desktop background, or that's a really cool picture, and so on. Because social media sites, though, really pull in all sorts data off of your web pages, off your images, things like that, we really try to optimize the first 30 words that appear on a page, just so that way it's something that's really clever and something that'll make people want to go and learn more about it. Those first 30 words matter. And so if it's just a bunch of institutional jargon, NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center today announces, revolutionary breakthrough courtesy of, these 5, telescopes with this 7, people, and so on, and so on. And then the second paragraph is all about the fact that we discovered a new star or something really incredible. That gets completely lost on social media when it pulls in that teaser text and everything from your web page. And that's just good for search engine optimization as well. So, just things to think about here. But the biggest change that we've really seen in social media has been video. And so I'll dive into the last few slides here. And really dive into video just very briefly. But, 5 of our largest platforms now are really, really video centric. These days, again, going back to the thought of how is something going to look on a 3-inch screen, we also find that attention spans are really short. And so how are you going to present information that is easy for people to consume, where they start watching, but then they tune out and move on to the next thing in their feed and so on, relatively quickly. So front load information, don't have it just be, bumpers and logos and slides and things like that and so on. We try to get to the point within the very first 10 seconds of a video and then work backwards from there. So it's, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them why you're going to tell them that, and then tell them why it matters, and then go back to let's tell them again. It's a little bit different than some of the old ways of delivering information out there. We also find, though, a lot of people don't watch video with sound on it. And so this has been absolutely the biggest change in how we produce video here recently. And so, is it closed captioned is the easy way to make it at least 508 compliant, which allows users with disabilities out there to access it using machine-assisted technology like screen readers or braillers or things like that, so that you can end up, making it accessible. But also for, users who are not disabled, how are they going to get the information if it's only an audio track and somebody talking on there? Is there a way that we can present this information visually so that it can have as many people as possible really, getting that nugget of knowledge out of the whole thing? Again, going back to the first 10 seconds are the most critical. It needs to be extremely visually compelling. Think about it. If you're scrolling through your feed on Facebook or on Twitter or some of the other platforms out there, what's going to make you stop and actually watch a video? And it's not going to be the NASA logo popping up on your video screen per se. There's probably an audience for that, probably not as big as you probably might think. So, if we can show off some amazing space imagery and everything, that's really where we can make a lot of sense to connect and provide something relevant to our audience that'll draw them in to look at more than just that, quick scrolling by kind of glance at things. Here's a couple of examples. All right, so this is 27 seconds. It presents 4 facts, has 1 picture in it. So it's a fairly simple, straightforward video. We really try to quickly dive into, a couple of things about, the knowledge that we want to put out there. And we try to keep it as simple as we possibly can sometimes. And so, 1 image of the moon with some text overlaid over it. And this we kind of called a video billboard. It was a quick hit to advertise, the fact a supermoon was coming up, and was something that people can step outside and see and, really share it. But again, 27 seconds, 4 facts, ended up being seen by about 3.5 million people out there. So it was a really well done, quick little ad here. I've got a bunch of other examples, but in the interest of time, I'm probably going to breeze through them here. But all the links and the slides, I believe, are all going to be available for all of these. So take a look at some of these other examples out here. We try to portray information visually, as I said, so that if you notice, it's all musical soundtracks on a lot of our social media videos these days. So that way you don't have to be listening to the video in order to get all the information out of it. So this one is 51 seconds long. We've seen 2.6 million times. Again, it's just a couple of quick video clips of some stuff that's already been happening out there. We overlaid some text explaining what was going on, and it's a nice quick recap video that really allows us to explain the concepts of how you get ready for the launch and what just happened. So it's very relevant and in the moment, and we're able to kind of get that word out there very quickly. So So again, this one is just about 1 minute long. It is great because it's kind of an evergreen video that we can pull out anytime that we have a new announcement that was done by a supercomputer, and we can explain how we use a supercomputer. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. So we look at trying to create content that just explains some of the basic concepts of what we're doing, why we do what we do, and what it helps enable. And so we really try to do that in a very quick, concise way. And we try to make it so that it's something that we can use again and again so that we can optimize our resources to really not really overtax them with having to create variations of the same thing again. So it's a great explainer of why supercomputers really matter and what we can do about it all. Again, I'm going to skip forward through a couple other videos.
How do you pee in space?
We have a funnel.
So did you have to work out?
You work out twice a day for about 2.5 hours.
How long did you have to train before going to the ISS?
About 5 years.
How did you get to the station?
A rocket.
Ever prank call anyone?
Of course you prank call people.
What's a groundbreaking experiment that you completed aboard the ISS?
I survived.
Is there Wi-Fi?
There is, but it's not as good as it is on Earth.
So are the beds comfy?
There are no beds.
Were there any language barriers?
Doc and Yeshna, of course there are language barriers.
What's your favorite meal on the station?
I love chocolate pudding cake.
Do you ever run out of anything?
Free time.
How often do you get to talk to your family?
Get to talk to them once a week.
What did you do in your free time?
Oh, you look out the window.
What'd you miss most on Earth?
Oh, my wife and kids.
What personal items did you take with you?
Photos of my wife and kids.
How do you do your laundry?
We throw it out.
How do you pee in a spacesuit?
We have a diaper.
And if you were to travel anywhere in the solar system, where would you go?
I work at NASA. We all want to go to Mars.
Okay, so that was 21 facts about the space station and life in space presented in 60 seconds. So really fascinating way to do a video and really present a lot of information, make it entertaining and yet, educational at the same time, and really capture and keep people's attention. I put this video version in that's square just so you can see what we ended up doing for Instagram here, because video at the time was working best for square videos. But we actually do find that people on Instagram watch square videos more than they do other proportion videos. So, really try to pack it in there. But it's something that I think that, anyone with any kind of in-depth knowledge of a topic out there really can, mimic this format and really push forward with some things. Again, we try to, put the text on the screen of what's being said, so that way if you had everything muted, you could still follow along and get all of the information out of there. We did create a version of it that is a 16:9, widescreen, regular TV kind of proportion video for sharing on other social media platforms. But I think the square version that we ended up doing for Instagram is really kind of a great example of how thinking outside of the box a little bit allows us a little bit better, access to things. But all of our social media out there is not it's just been set up and text on the screen for this. All right, so I'll say again what I said in that, not everything has to be fast-paced techno music and, astronauts and things like that. Sometimes what we do is very grand and cinematic. And so I stopped this because this video runs about 3 minutes long, but it's kind of an enthralling video that really captures your imagination. And so with this video, we were able to kind of, take that kind of grand cinematic approach to what's going on with the Cassini mission before it ended here, and really explain the concepts and break it all down. This video ended up being viewed almost 4 million times across all the different platforms out there when you totaled it up. So really, really popular video that really explained the final months of the Cassini mission before it ended. So just really kind of fascinating to see how something totally different than some of the other examples out there really still worked well, but was the same basic principles in that it was, presented information visually and really in a way that would draw a user in and really make them really think about this. So last slide here, where are we going? We're always looking for more ways to engage folks, and we're looking for new platforms and tools that we can use to bring in new audiences. We're working internally to do skill building, and that's where a lot of the material you see tonight came from, is some of our training slides and training opportunities that we do internally for our own social media community of folks who run all of these different accounts out there. We really try to pair up and sync what we're doing on social media with what's happening in the traditional media and the news cycles and things like that. Obviously, we're measuring all of this, looking at analytics of what's working, the metrics of it all, and evaluating, things that work well, trying to figure out why things didn't work so well that we thought might do well, and so on, and get those lessons learned so we can apply them in the future. And overall, just, really to continue to improve the quality of what we do and so on, so that it's not just us screaming into a megaphone and hoping that it's, somebody in the wind out there, but hopefully it's being heard by the right people. So, and bringing audience to the table to learn about what NASA is really up to. So that's what I've got. And I apologize for running 8 minutes longer than I thought I should, but we can jump into some questions here. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
That was great, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah. So we do have a few questions here. Barbara Delay, I think I pronounced that right. She has a question in general about do you know anything about getting into the media slash film with NASA? What do you kind of need to get into that? Do you need a certain degree, or how's that work?
So, a lot of our communicators have degrees that are in communications, marketing, journalism, things like that, and so on. And then they rely on the expertise of our experts to really relay the science of it all and the technical pieces of it. So, as we always tell folks who want to get into these sorts of fields at NASA and so on, it's hard to teach good news judgment about why something works. It's something that's kind of innately learned through experience and everything. And so we always are looking for people who have that sort of experience and information to bring to the table, because we've got scientists and engineers and technicians and stuff. And so, it's our job to, help them communicate what they do out to the public. And so we let them do the awesome work that they do, and we try to translate that to as many people as we possibly can. So that's really the background that a lot of our communicators come from. Although we do have some communicators and things that are scientists or researchers or engineers or things like that. And so, they bring a different skill to the table. So it takes all types. It takes a village.
Jason, what's your background? How did you end up here?
Yeah, so I actually have a degree in political science at the University of Colorado Boulder. And so I kind of landed in this because I started interning at NASA at the Goddard Space Flight Center, helping them build web pages and everything back starting in 2003. And so I've worked from then on up, and I've left NASA twice and come back to NASA twice because it's a great place to work. And so, when my internship ended, I went and worked in a nonprofit and then a think tank and all doing web stuff. And so I've been a contractor at NASA, and now I'm, helping manage the social media program here. So it's really kind of fascinating.
Very cool.
Oh, another question. This is from Nicole Bosch, and she was just wondering, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but you probably know where to go to. Will there be any future opportunities for educators or observatory operators or informal educators in general to go on any missions with Sophia in the future, or even any other missions? Because it's something that she really. Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know specifically about what the current status of it is, but I know that from time to time they put out a call for, submissions of proposals for people who want to take advantage of some of the ride-along seats that they have to fly on some of those missions. So always keep your ears peeled on that. Follow the Sophia Telescope online. I know that when they have the proposal season open, that it is widely advertised on social media and on their website. So keep your ears peeled for that out there. If you're looking for other opportunities, it's not just flying along. Sometimes you can go and work with some of the educator resource centers that are located all over the country out there on opportunities to work through space grant organizations and others to bring folks to NASA or bring NASA to you. There's definitely that. And there's always our Speakers Bureau as well that can also help, make sure that, you can connect with NASA folks wherever you are across the country. So there's opportunities to get involved and participate in that way. But, if you want to come and visit NASA, the NASA social program is great if you're a social media follower of NASA. There's a ton of citizen science programs, some of which involve on-site training and stuff like that. If your curiosities are more in like big data, our open government team runs the DataNaut program where you can come in and look at all of our big data sets and do some incredible programming and coding and things like that. So there's stuff for all types out there. And you can find all of that listed on our website. So.
Cool. Thank you, Jason. Let's see what else we've got. Let's see. Oh, for the software, what do you use specifically to kind of see who you're connecting with on your different social media channels? Is there something that kind of aggregates your data, or?
Yeah, so we put out a bid every year for getting an annual subscription to a social media tool. Right now we're using Sprinkler. It's a enterprise social media tool that allows us to do all this, but there's dozens of different tools that are out there on the market that do similar sorts of things. And you can easily aggregate lots of different accounts and look at the data and so on. But I can tell you that you can also dive in and find a very rich experience getting into the analytics that are available just on each of the platforms themselves. Twitter analytics is amazing. Facebook insights on your pages, Google Plus ripples, analytics on Tumblr and things like that. You can really glean a lot of information by getting in there and looking at your audience profile, looking at what's going on with your followers, and looking at trends over time with different kinds of posts. We routinely look at and really share our videos doing better, what kinds of videos are doing better, or our images doing better, or posts that have links in them versus no links in them. We look at those sorts of things, every so often to kind of determine those sorts of where should we be going and what should we be doing. So, it ebbs, it flows, and it changes a little bit. So.
Thank you. We got another question on, I'm going to try and find the link to this. Andy Sherwood asks, she says she posts NASA news to her club's Facebook page each morning, but what's the best site to view in order to find all the current NASA news? Where's the stash, so to speak?
The
The
stash.
source.
If you're talking about social media, usually the main NASA account's the one that has all the high level, looks at everything that's going on out there. If you want to see kind of the unfiltered version of it on Facebook, if that's what you're looking for, if you go to facebook.com/NASA, you can click on posts over in the left-hand navigation of the page, and it'll pull up all of our posts in an order that you can sort by the most recent, by, top posts, by, things like that. So you can look at a couple of different views of the post to see what's popular and what's the most latest things that have been put out there. So that way it's not just a few being delivered to your own timeline on Facebook. So, that's definitely one that you can definitely go and look at. We inevitably tweet everything if you're looking for it on Twitter. So you can go to twitter.com/NASA and see things there. We try to make sure to list out all of the engagements that you can get involved with by tweeting them to the social community that follows us at NASA Social on Twitter, and put that out there. But yeah, and otherwise, if you just go to nasa.gov on the homepage, that always has whatever the latest information is that we've been putting out, and the big stories of the day are always featured right on the homepage. That homepage gets updated probably 6 to 8 times a day with new material and so on. So it's constantly changing, and that's really, really what you can see as a snapshot of what's going on across NASA.
Cool. Thank you.
How about, Jason, for those of us who don't actually have a job in this or that much time to do it all, do you have a way to post to many places all at once? Do you have any tricks and tips for that so you don't have to post to Facebook?
There's definitely a lot of tools that will allow you to end up putting information on a lot of different platforms out there. I know, though, that time can be a time crunch and so on. So I would look at where are your audiences and that have the most engagement or the largest following, so that way you can reach as many people as you possibly can. But it's going to come down to what your goals are. What are you trying to actually accomplish? And so if you can end up putting out, things that reach the people you want to be reaching, then that's the platform I think that's going to be the most valuable to really focus your efforts and energies on. So, knowing your audience and knowing, who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to accomplish really will help you set forth the actions you can take and prioritize them, because I know that sometimes, resources and time are, a limited factor. And so, really put them where you can get your maximum return on investment. So.
Thank you so much, Jason. This has been really, really informative. It's great.
Mhm.
Well, this is fantastic. I know that I've learned a lot from this, and just it's remarkable all the different avenues that NASA uses and that we use as just in a modern society of getting information out there. And so thank you so much for illuminating this for us and kind of shedding a little bit of insight into how NASA goes about doing this. So,
yeah, definitely. Hopefully there were some good ideas and takeaways that you had from some of the things there and spark some thinking about it. And some of the tips that we've learned over the years will definitely help folks out to really drive some interest in some of your clubs out there. So thank you all.
Yeah, well, I think that we've derived some interesting insights for our own outreach here with the Night Sky Network, as well as with the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. I have a funny feeling that we're going to be adopting some of these ideas here quite soon. So, well, that's all for tonight, everyone. You'll be able to find this webinar along with many others on the Night Sky Network website in the Outreach Resources section. Each webinar's page also features additional resources and activities. We'll post tonight's presentation on the Night Sky Network YouTube channel, as well as the Outreach Resource page in the next few days.